going to tell you a story, and it's going to involve a woman trying to outrun a childhood nightmare that has clawed its way into her adult life and her parenthood. Oh, and maybe a pinch of sand. It really does get everywhere. Welcome to the Aurora Wasteland. In every aspect of life, Stephanie was a normal girl. At age 1, she walked. At age 2, she talked. At age 6, she went to Disneyland. Every aspect of her life would be classified as 100% normal and uneventful until the age of 8. That is where things began to get interesting for us and unpleasant for her. Stephanie and the Aurora Wasteland have a history going back a few years. Initially in 2018, she posted about an event that happened to herself and her daughter on their first excursion out to a brand new park in their newly developed subdivision. The post simply stated that Stephanie heard voices coming from below the sand while she was at the park with her daughter. A few commenters posted about their own experiences with voices coming from inanimate objects, mostly from urns, couches, and vibrators. It should be pointed out here that the number one most common household item to talk to you is your vibrator. This goes for both men and women. The more powerful the vibrator, the more likely it is you will hear voices. A scientific study was commissioned by the Aurora Wasteland website on the subject in 2010. It backs up these finds. It also finds that vibrators that pulse as well as buzz are more likely to cause users to accidentally summon unwanted gods. Anyways, after Stephanie initially posted, an Aurora Wasteland team reached out to her and conducted an interview with her at her house. She told them that after she took her daughter Emma to the park, that after only a few minutes she started to hear voices. Her daughter then 8 also heard voices but wasn't clear on what they were saying. She said they just sounded like mumble noises, like someone was yelling from underwater. Stephanie, on the other hand, heard the voices very clearly. She said they just kept repeating the same word over and over again. Her name. After cleaning out their underpants, the Aurora Wasteland team investigated the park without Stephanie's help. She was unwilling to return and doubted that she ever would. The team found nothing. They stayed for hours with microphones buried in the sand, but left with nothing but improved sandcastle building skills. The team had hit a wall. They had nothing but Stephanie's word to move them forward. While reviewing the notes from Stephanie's interview and preparing a website post, one team member contacted Stephanie about the spelling of her daughter's name and a clarification of age. It was then that Stephanie let a vital piece of information slip. She said that Emma, her daughter, is the same age now that Stephanie was when she first heard the voices. Startled by the discovery that Stephanie had heard the voices before, the team member gently asked Stephanie about the first time she heard the voices. Gently pleased, the team member practically crapped their panties in excitement that the case was finally going to get interesting. Flustered by her slip of the tongue, Stephanie claimed she'd misspoke and ended the conversation prematurely. As you may or may not know, Aurora Wasteland team members don't let things go easily. They are an intensely inquisitive bunch, so despite Stephanie's attempt to cover, the team members brought the new information back to her team and the whole website, where the community set to work looking for when Stephanie may have previously heard voices. A 1998 newspaper article from the Barhead Leader framed Stephanie's story in a new light. It claimed that a child went missing at a local park. The only witnesses to the event were a little girl who claimed that a boy who went missing was pulled into the sand by voices. Police at the time chalked it up to a custody dispute, but the child was never heard from or seen again. Police didn't put much into the claim that the child was pulled into the sand by voices, but they did dig up the entire park looking for her. The witness to the event, the little girl, matched the age and upbringing of Stephanie. So what? What makes this an Aurora Wasteland case? A woman hears a voice and you think she's linked to a missing child from the 1990s? That doesn't scream Aurora Wasteland to me. Well, hold on to your nips. Things are about to get mildly more mysterious. Stephanie cut off communication with the Aurora Wasteland team at this point, and her post from the Aurora Wasteland website vanished. Though the post was later created from a website backup, the team was at a loss. The newspaper held no information identifying the missing girl from 1998. Stephanie seemed to be the only link to the whole story, and even she seemed to no longer want anything to do with it. So, the team did what every good Aurora Wasteland team does. They respected Stephanie's wishes and closed the case. Roll the credits, the story ends here. This story has no ending. Except that it does, and they didn't. The team did respect her wishes, and they didn't stalk or harass Stephanie, but they did go on a road trip. The small town of Barhead is somewhat of a focal point for the strange and weird inside the Aurora Wasteland. Notable Aurora Wasteland locations from the town itself are Moe's Trailers and Thunder Lake. The team was excited, having never been there. Their first stop was a local coffee shop to meet a former school teacher. His name has been redacted as per his request. From here on out, we will refer to him as Mr. P. The team filled Mr. P in on everything that they knew about Stephanie and the missing child from before. Mr. P, in turn, filled the team in on everything from the events from 1998. He told them the story that was familiar around town. While he worked at the elementary school that the park was located at, the events took place after school hours and everything he knew was secondhand. His story matched that of the newspaper article with one notable exception. He noted that Stephanie, more than other children, were affected by the events, that she refused to play not just at the school park but all parks, and that the parents had taken her to counseling for it. He recounted that gossip around town was that she was crazy, and that her family would later separate themselves from her because of it. While the team and Mr. P parted ways, the team did have a better understanding of the events from 1998. They didn't have a direction to take their investigation, so they marked it as incomplete and parked it. Time passed by on the case, roughly a year. Then suddenly, out of the blue, as Stephanie's initial post had appeared on the website, the Aurora Wasteland team that had been investigating her received a panicked phone call about her. While barely able to make out what she was saying, the team members could make out nothing more than park, daughter, and alone. Then Stephanie was gone, the team assumed, and would later be proven correct. 9-year-old Stephanie had been convinced to go to the nearby park without her mother's knowledge. Only Stephanie did find out, and she nearly lost her mind. In panic, the only thing she thought to do was to contact the Aurora Wasteland team, who contacted the police before setting out to the park for themselves. By the time they reached the park, Stephanie and her daughter were being attended to by medics. Elated that the team was there, Stephanie told them the same story she told the police. She'd been attacked by something in the park again, only this time it grabbed her and tried to pull her in. Neither her daughter nor her daughter's friends could back up the events described by Stephanie. They reported that Stephanie showed up shouting and yelling and startled the girls and embarrassed the daughter. But I mean, who hasn't been embarrassed by their parents not allowing them to go play at a park because they hear voices every time they go near one, and constantly remind you that their childhood events were way harder to get over than your childhood events, because, as she claims, kids today are addicted to these phones, even if she's the one who's always on her phone and has to run to it every time it makes the littlest sound. Mom. Anyways, Stephanie and the Aurora Wasteland team agreed to meet again that night at the park. She'd show them what happened and tell them about the missing girl from 1998. Only the meeting never took place. The team was late because of an unrelated episodic diarrhea case, and by the time they got there, Stephanie was nowhere to be found. Disappointed, they tried contacting her, but had no luck. So they traveled to Stephanie's house, where they found her daughter home alone, and claiming that she was supposed to be at the park meeting them. Panicked, the team contacted the now massively annoyed local police, who agreed to meet them at the park one last time. Which they did. The team went over the entire story with them, and just before the police were about to arrest the team under suspicious disappearance charges, true story, those were the charges cited, a phone was found in the sand, a phone that would quickly be determined as Stephanie's. To the police's credit, they took the suggestion from the Aurora Wasteland team and quickly had the park excavated. You see, the Aurora Wasteland team believed that something had been chasing after Stephanie, and that something had attacked her and pulled her down into the sand. As much as the team wanted to be right, they hoped that they were wrong. They didn't want to find Stephanie's body at the bottom of the park, buried below the sand. But they did, and their hearts were broken. Stephanie's body was found several feet below the surface of the park, her arms and legs intertwined with other bodies that they found at the bottom. Bodies so decayed, so dried up, they resembled almost skeletons. One each holding onto her limbs. Stephanie was dead, and the body of one of those skeletons was later identified as the missing child from back in 1998. The one that Stephanie was playing with. The one who was later determined and backed up by Stephanie's daughter called out Stephanie's name as she was being taken back in 1998, and was the only actual word Stephanie heard from the sand that she was afraid to go into. Stephanie was hunted and haunted by the child she'd failed to get help for. It called her name for decades after its death. But why? Why Stephanie? The story died here for the Aurora Wasteland team, though they routinely check up on Stephanie's daughter, who, to this day, stays away from parks. Don't forget to subscribe, pick up the books, and check out the Aurora Wasteland. Hey, I'm VaughnAshby, author of Tethered and Brightness Falls, and if you like this story, you should head over to aurorawasteland.com or VaughnAshby.com. Go pick up one of my books, or go explore the Aurora Wasteland yourself.